So the world seems to be getting scarier and scarier. Every time you turn on the news, it's another piece of bad events. We've got school shootings, we've got public executions, we've got natural disasters, wars, political unrest, racism, division, polarization, and it's overwhelming. And I see the kind of anxiety and struggles I'm dealing with in my clients has been shifting over the past, 5 years. It's about the time the pandemic hit that I started to notice a shift in the type of anxiety people are dealing with. And that shift has continued. People are scared. And I think when you look at what we're seeing on the media, it's kind of understandable. So what do we do? How do we cope with what's going on out in the world? It's like every time you turn on the news, you feel like you're going into a state of hypervigilance. You feel like the world is an unsafe place. And a lot of people out there are just bad people. And that makes it pretty scary. Now, if you had lived hundreds of years ago, you wouldn't be exposed to things going on across the globe. You would be exposed to some news events going on that pertain to your country, your town, your village, but you wouldn't know about kids over in Africa who are sniffing jet fuel. You wouldn't know about a war in a small village across the world because information was limited. And now I'm not complaining that we have information and knowledge, but now we are privy to information from everywhere in the world. We can access that information, and it's literally pummeled at us every time we turn on the TV, we listen to the news, we have our phone, and this is just overwhelming. I apologize for my voice. I'm having a little bit of allergies today. So please bear with me. But I want to talk about this today because the one thing that I've really seen change, because there's always been problems, right? We've had tribal warfare, we had disease, we had racism, we had slavery, we had misogyny, we had child abuse, we had trauma. All of these things have been a part of the human existence for eons. So, what's changing? That's what I'd like to talk about. But more importantly, what do you do about it? How do you protect your mental health? Because I have so many people coming to me and saying, Tiffany, I feel like I am unraveling. I just don't know how to stay positive. I don't know how to keep going on. I'm worried for my children. I'm worried for my grandchildren. Let's talk about that today. So I feel like my perspective is different than a lot of people's, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I spent 15 years in a fundamental religious cult where women were treated like crap, where fear and guilt and shame were used to manipulate people. Now, it wasn't one of those, strange cults where people had multiple wives and abused children, none of that. But it was very psychologically oppressive. There was a lot of brainwashing. And here's the interesting thing. When I was in this religious cult, I believed really crazy stuff. I did. And I have a relatively high IQ, and I still believe this crazy stuff. Okay. And when I got out of that religious cult, I thought, oh, glory. I am going to be out in the world where I'll be free of brainwashing. And I discovered, no, we're all programmed. We're programmed with beliefs about life, about ourselves, about God, about whether there is a God, about culture, about how we should live in this world, about politics. And it's because of those program beliefs that we adopt the opinions we have. But why do I bring this up? Because it is a key understanding for you to be able to operate in this world with sound mental health and for you to be able to have successful relationships. Because what I see right now happening, and it's driven a lot by social media and algorithms, are people are becoming increasingly polarized and they're viewing anyone who doesn't believe like them as an enemy worthy of destruction. Okay. Um, Like, for example, I think we would all agree school shootings are bad. But we don't all agree on the solution. People have different ideas about how we could solve that problem. Where do those ideas come from? Are people on one side of the fence evil, but people are on the other side of the fence are good? This is what we've come to as a nation, where we have sort of an attitude and a belief that the way I believe is the smart way to believe. My political stance is the way it should be. And of course we believe that, or we wouldn't be choosing our political stance. Now here's the problem is when we think that the person who doesn't believe like us is bad. This is an evil, bad people, a person. Now, no doubt there are people in this world who are evil and do evil things. I hate to say that. I didn't want to believe it for a long time. These are the psychopaths and the sociopaths of this world. And I won't argue whether it's something they're born with, like some scientists believe, or whether it's something that develops. Not here to talk about that today. But what I will tell you is that really good people can believe totally opposite on important issues. Okay. Someone that doesn't believe like you isn't bad. When I was a fundamentalist, I believed really crazy things. I wasn't evil. I wasn't bad. I believed what I believed because that's the way I was programmed to believe. Most people will choose the political party of their upbringing, or they go off to college and maybe their politics shifts, but they're exposed to something new. They're exposed to something different. They're perhaps being programmed. So we develop beliefs based on our experiences, our culture, our upbringing. And what's lacking in this country today is the ability to understand that people develop their beliefs because of what they're exposed to. So someone that believes different than you is not necessarily an idiot or a bad person. I look back on the things I believed when I was in a religious cult, and it's laughable. I mean, it's really laughable. Some of the ridiculous stuff that I believed. I'm shocked. Like, I find it hard. I look back at that woman back there and I think, wow, that was crazy. But I have compassion for her because I didn't begin to believe those things, which I believed quite boldly and vocally sometimes. I didn't believe them because I was an idiot or a bad person. I believed them because, well, I was brainwashed. I was brainwashed. And you know what it took for me to escape? It wasn't someone going on social media and saying, my God, you're so stupid. How could you believe that? It wasn't someone calling me names. It wasn't someone orchestrating violence against me. It wasn't someone treating me like an idiot or attacking me in any way. I can tell you definitively that that changes nothing. That wouldn't have worked for me. It's not going to work on you. Am I right? You're not going to change because someone calls you an idiot. And it doesn't work on the people that are being attacked today in social media publicly. It doesn't work because it just doesn't. It's not a solution. But what does work? What worked for me when I was in a religious cult was respectful discourse. Someone who believed in my humanity. They didn't assume I was an idiot because I believed dumb things. And I look back and think, yeah, some of those things were dumb. They assumed that I was a decent person who was just deceived. So they sat down with me and said, hey, Tiffany, why don't you consider a different perspective? Oh, no, I'm definitely right. And I stood on that ground for a long time. But at one point, I began to be miserable because of my beliefs. This is how people usually change. Something they see or hear or experience causes them to question. Sometimes when that happens, we remember those people who were respectful to us and we say, oh, you know what? He told me this would happen. So it was because of those people that approached me with kindness and didn't assume I was evil because of my beliefs, that I was one of those evil fundamentalists, those religious nut jobs, those, doormat women in a religious cult. That's not how I was treated. I was treated with respect and love and kindness. And so I could see the truth. I could see how I was oppressed by my beliefs and how I should consider. Now, since then, I've changed a lot of my beliefs, not just what I believed in a religious context, but what I learned leaving a cult was that I had the ability to be profoundly wrong about something and be 100% convinced that I was right. 100%. I would have died on that mountain. And yet I was still wrong. So I'd like to challenge you today that you actually might be wrong about something. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not here to talk about politics or world events. I'm here to help you. And I hope my perspective as someone coming out of a cult is useful to you, because we're all scared right now about all this stuff going on in the world. We rightfully should be concerned. But I want you to consider the fact that if we allow hopelessness to settle in, if we begin to believe these problems are too big and there's no solutions, we lose. Not because the solutions aren't there, but because if we don't think there are any solutions, we stop looking for them. And when we stop looking for them, we don't find them. So I can tell you, as someone who actively looks for solutions, that a lot of the problems I've been told are hopeless, when I look out there, when I dig below the surface, I find there are solutions. Did you know that someone has developed a mushroom that can consume plastic waste? There's a guy that invented something that actually can extract water from desert air. There are solutions. Maybe they're still being developed, but there are some solutions to the terrible problems in this world. And I believe there is a solution to the polarization we see spreading, the anger, the violence, the hatred, and that is respectful discourse. So I challenge you. Can you sit down with someone who believes differently than you and still respect that person? Can you have a civilized conversation with someone? Someone who believes something that you think is absolutely nuts. If I told you what I used to believe, you would laugh your head off. You would think, oh my God, that's so stupid. I can't believe anyone is that dumb. I wasn't dumb. I was deceived. And guaranteed, you believe something right now that 10 years from now, you'll look back on and go, God, ooh, I can't believe I believed something so dumb. I can't believe I thought that way. This is the human experience. So I encourage you to sit down and talk to somebody, ask them to respectfully share their view. Why do you feel this way? I've done this. I love to do this, actually. I have learned so much. I want to know if I'm wrong. And I tell you, I still find out all the time I'm wrong. Okay, I can't know what it's like to grow up in the inner city as a Black person unless I talk to someone living out those day-to-day experiences. And I don't talk to respond. I don't speak to elevate my position. I talk to listen. Talk to people who believe differently than you, religiously, politically, culturally. One of the things I love is that I've had an opportunity to travel to some different countries and to experience other cultures. I wish everyone could do this. You will learn that we're not necessarily superior in everything we believe and do. That kind of tribalism shouldn't still be present in 2025. So let's come down to, what do you do right now to protect your mental health in this really scary time that we're all going through? I gave you one suggestion already. It's to sit down and talk to someone that you disagree with, because right now, many people are divided on politics and beliefs. People you used to care about. I remember years ago, because I'm 55, years ago, it was completely normal to sit down on your neighbor's front porch, have completely opposing political views and still respect each other and have a conversation. And this relational skill is dying off. I don't think it should. This is how we learn because the problems we are facing right now, almost everyone agrees are problems, not entirely, but if we honestly listen to each other, what we discover is we agree on so many things. I once sat down with someone who I considered to be on the lunatic fringe politically. I sat down with him and I said, okay, so tell me what you see as the problem. He spelled it out for me. I said, what do you think the solutions are? He gave me 10 solutions, 10 things he would change about the world and the government. And I agreed with 9 of those. And we were polar opposite. And I was amazed. If you sit down and civilly discuss, respectfully discuss, you'll discover most of the things that other people say you often agree are problems. It's the solutions that you haven't agreed on. And when you talk about them, you might find common ground. It is when we stop seeing each other as idiots and evil and the enemy, and we begin to really honestly sit down and hear each other's stories, when we begin to listen to understand instead of listen to respond, that solutions will be found. So today, perhaps you are struggling with fear about what's going on. I'm going to challenge you to do a few things. This is something that I have to do. First, limit your exposure to what's going on out there. If you were sick with the flu, you're not going to go to a football game. You're going to take time to heal. You're going to skip that game. If you feel yourself unraveling, falling into a depression, becoming anxious, you're losing sleep, it's time to pull back for your health and the health of the people that depend upon you. It's okay to do that. You're not going to become uninformed if you take a break. Point number 2, notice the good around you. Notice that guy that mows the elderly lady's lawn at the end of your street. Notice the people that volunteer at the local food bank. Notice the old lady that volunteers at the hospital. Notice the man that brings in a snack for everyone at the office. Notice the lady that always smiles at you when you're out on your morning walk. Notice how polite the checkout person is. Notice the cute children riding their bikes, how sweet they are, how much their mother loves them and attends to them. If you look around you, you are going to see good people everywhere. Democrats love their children. Republicans love their children. Okay? People aren't bad because they don't believe the way you believe. I used to think that way. I'm thankful I don't anymore. So focus on the good. Point number 2 or 3 is focus on solutions. There are solutions out there. When we focus on the problems, we become overwhelmed, discouraged, we begin to lose hope. Focus on the solutions, and then the next point, find a solution to be a part of. You cannot be a solution to every problem out there, so pick one. Now, for me, I choose to be somewhat of an environmental activist. And I'll tell you why. Because 33 years ago, my daughter was born with 8 birth defects. Well, maybe it was 7 birth defects that were caused by an organophosphate exposure that I had in early pregnancy. Now, after that came out, at the era that I was in, Rachel Carlson's book, Silent Spring, had been published. And she was getting so much flack. Oh, misinformation. It's not true. Pesticides are safe. Okay. I knew they weren't because of what I experienced. Other people thought I was crazy because they hadn't experienced it. Do you see? Sometimes you won't know what it's like, or you won't see the validity of an opinion until you walk through the fire yourself. So that experience and losing my daughter made me very concerned about environmental things. And so that's where I choose to be a part of the solution through promoting regenerative agriculture, through wanting more studies to secure the safety of products before they're put on the market. So, and there's something that you're passionate about today, there's something you really believe in. The answer is not yelling, screaming, hating, and believing everyone's an idiot. The answer is for us to take a look at each other's humanity, to elevate the problem, to put it on the table and say, let's talk about the problem, but more importantly, let's find solutions, whether it's in your marriage, in your friendships, at the office, or with people you disagree with. There's always a way to be part of the solution. And in doing that, you are fostering a sense of agency that is going to help mitigate against the overwhelm, stress, and anxiety that we're all going through right now. So I hope that was helpful. It's what was really on my mind this morning when I was taking my walk, and I wanted to share it with you. I hope that you will like and subscribe. If you know someone that will be encouraged by this video, I hope you'll share it. And if you're really going through a hard time right now and you just need help, you need support, visit my website. Link will be in the description below, and I'm happy to help you. Have a good day.